Hey guys, today I am going to show you how to make this cool radial symmetry scratch art, but first let's talk a little bit about what radial symmetry is. So radial symmetry is a naturally occurring phenomenon, which is when an object is symmetrical around a center point. So you could fold the object multiple ways and it would still be symmetrical. Radial symmetry is also very commonly found in religious artwork. So if you look at these examples, you'll notice that they all show radial symmetry. So we are going to start our radial symmetry artwork with a sheet that looks like this. As you can see, it's divided into sections, and each section should look exactly the same. So if I put this circle in one spot, in one piece, I need to put it in the same spot in every single piece. So I'm just working my way around, making sure that I'm trying to keep everything as lined up as possible. And as you go, you can just kind of use stencils or you can freehand however you would like, just making sure to keep everything radially symmetrical. So if you do one thing in one spot, it has to be done to the rest of the spots. And you should try to fill in most of the space. There shouldn't be any really big open empty spaces. Like for example, the insides of these circles I find to be a little bit too much of an empty space, so I'm going to go ahead and add just a cool shape inside of those. And avoid any little tiny details. So now that I'm done with my design, I'm ready to start transferring. I have masking tape, an ebony pencil, and a colored pencil. I'm going to use the ebony pencil to color on the back of my design. I'm pressing down a little bit harder than I normally would when I'm coloring just because I want it to be nice and dark. And you don't have to fill it corner to corner, just on the back of the circle where your design is. So now that I've gotten a decent covering of ebony pencil, I'm going to flip my design over so the ebony is facing the scratch board. And I'm going to put a couple small pieces of tape on the top part of my paper. I like to do it this way so as I'm working, I can lift my paper up and check my progress without messing things up or getting them out of line. So I have 2 pieces of tape, kind of like a hinge on the top of my paper now. And the last step for transferring is to trace over all your lines with a color pencil. You're just using color pencil so you can kind of see what lines you've already traced over. It doesn't matter what color the color pencil is at all, because what's happening is I'm pressing the ebony pencil down onto the scratch board. So like I said, the color of the color pencil doesn't matter. Pressing pretty hard. And I'm also checking my progress as I go. So every once in a while, I'll lift up my paper and just kind of make sure I've gotten all my spots traced. And it's also optional to trace over the lines that are kind of dissecting that circle, the printed lines. I like the way they look right in the middle, but I didn't want them anywhere else, so I just traced them in the middle. Okay, so now go ahead and go do that part with the design and come back to this video after you've designed and transferred your piece onto your scratch board so you can see how to use the scratching tools. Also, the pretzel here is irrelevant. It's just the first emoji I saw. So yeah, go do your design and then come back to see the scratching process. Okay, so once you are ready to scratch, you have a few different tools to choose from. There's this one, which is really pointy and kind of triangular. This is good for making super thin lines. I honestly don't use that one very much. And there's also this one, which is similar to the really pointy triangular one, but if you look, it has slightly rounded edges, and it still is pointy on the end, but not quite as sharp. This is my favorite one. It's good for making thicker lines and for kind of clearing out whole areas of gold space. So if you're kind of trying to color with it, that's the one to use. And then the last tool that we have is a shorter red one. And it's also a little bit curved on the sides and pretty pointy on the end, and it's really flat. This one can really be used for any kind of purpose. It can make thin lines and thick lines. It's a good one. And here is how to use the tool. Watch closely and you can see that I am holding it at about a 45-degree angle. I'm not using the very tip or the very side, but rather somewhere in between to get that 45-degree angle. I also am kind of holding it facing downwards and only pulling towards myself, not away. Okay, so now I'm ready to start using my scratching tools. I'm going to use the one with a rounded side, and you only pull it towards yourself. So you're not pushing it away or to the side. That's because it needs to be at a specific angle for it to actually scratch the paper. As you can see, I'm kind of twisting the paper around so that I don't have to like angle my hand or do any crazy things like that. Just turn the paper based on what angle you need to do. And I will let you know that circles are a little bit tricky. Since pulling only towards yourself works best, it's really a linear motion. So any more rounded or curvy shapes will be a little bit less natural feeling, but it's okay if they're not perfect. So I'm just going to go ahead and trace over all my lines now. And boom, I'm basically done tracing. So the thing with this project is that you're not done just when you have traced over all of your lines. We are going to be looking for balance in our artwork. So you're looking to make it half gold and half black. This just creates a more cohesive look, and it creates some contrast. So you should try to basically color in. It's kind of the opposite of coloring in since you're removing material, but you should try to remove material in about half of your design. So you are carefully using your tool to clear out full areas of solid gold so that it's not just a bunch of lines on your scratch board, but rather really solid shapes, half black and half gold. And another kind of a shortcut to achieve this balance, if it's taking a lot of time to clear areas out fully, you could add a texture. So rather than taking the time to 110% make these areas solid gold, you could add a pattern like stripes or crisscrosses, and that will kind of achieve the same result of getting some more balance between black and gold without spending quite as much time. But you should still take some time to try to make some areas solid as well. So here is my finished product, although I did forget to add stripes to a couple of those little triangles in the top, but it's okay. I'll go back and do that later. As you can see, I have a pretty decent balance between gold and black. It's not like my design is just lines on my board. I have taken the time to clear out full areas and make them solid gold and leave some areas black, and added some stripes and texture to other areas to achieve that balance. So have fun with this one, guys, and take your time.